Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ellie, and I'll be running today's MWI clinic, where I'm going to be focusing on mastering document management within Merlin. Now, just to get our agenda up, you will be familiar with this as it was on the registration, but I'm going to be starting with making use of merge fields and prompts. So we're going to be going through how to add merge fields and prompts into document templates. I'm then going to discuss some key merge fields to make use of. There's heaps of them, but I want to highlight some key ones. I'm then going to move on to template utilization across the various different template areas within Merlin. And then we're going to cover off some pre-submitted questions. In relation to the questions, the chat will be open throughout the webinar. So if you do want to pop any questions as we're going through, please feel free to do so. Those questions will be reviewed once the webinar has finished, and we will follow up then with an FAQ, so covering pre-submitted questions, any questions that come in throughout the webinar, and then just any other top tips that we've got in relation to document management. We also will reach out directly to any customers if necessary, if you've got any specific questions related to how you use your documents within Merlin and within your practice. So if I kick off with the first point, which is making use of merge fields and prompts, the first thing which you may or may not be aware of is how do you actually access the merge fields from Merlin so you can make use of them within your documents and templates. And the way that you want to do that is once you are in Merlin, you want to head up to administration. Once you're up there, you want to select document templates, and then right down at the bottom, you'll have your download merge fields button. Once you do that, that will do a download onto the PC and only onto the PC that you're currently on. It will download a zipped folder, and what you need to do is you need to extract all of those separate merge field files. What I would recommend is creating a merge field folder first, and then once you're ready, you can right click and press extract all. Once you have clicked that, what it will do is it will ask you to select a destination of where you want to extract those files to. Select the folder you've created. That will pre-fill that, and then you can press extract. It'll take a few seconds, and then what you will then get is those extracted files then displayed, and they will display for you. What you can see here is you've got all of the different merge fields that are relevant. That is as far as you need to go now. You just need to keep them in a safe place. And the next step is to actually start then opening a Word document. So whether that is a blank document because you're starting from scratch, or you've already got a bit of a pre-templated document and you just want to add in your merge fields and prompts in the necessary areas. Before I do bring up an actual document and we just go through prompts and merge fields that way, one thing that I do want to mention is just the importance of ensuring that you match the appropriate merge fields with the document type. Some of this is very self-explanatory, but it's just really important that I highlight this. Some of them, again, it's quite obvious. So, for example, at the top, we can see appointment template. That matches up with your appointment reminders. But there's 3 specific ones on here that don't have a direct match with the way that they are named within the document area within Merlin. So the first one is that I've highlighted here is your enterprise reports template. And it's just worth noting that that matches up to your report wizard document area within Merlin. Your recall patient template matches up with your patient reminders. And then the one that's the most, I guess, obscure is your utilities document. And that's the one that matches up with any documents that you attach to any items within code entry. If you were to use the incorrect selection of merge fields for the document type that you are creating, when you go to upload that template into Merlin, into that relevant document area, you're going to get an error, and it's going to tell you that your merge fields are not valid for the document type. So it's really important, as I said, you use the appropriate ones, but also as part of that to avoid, if you're creating different types of documents, to avoid doing any copying and pasting of your merge fields. So there's a lot of them that are the same, such as, your generic client details, patient details, your site information. They are very similar across your different document types, but you still need to ensure that you use the ones that are specifically for that document area. So avoid doing any copying and pasting across different document types, just so you reduce the risk of getting any of those errors and then have to go through and fix all of those merge fields at a later date. So what I'm going to do is bring up a pre-created document template that I've been working on, and that is a written prescription template. This one's quite relevant at the moment because we have in the last couple of months, we've released some new merge fields in line with the RCVS regulations for some additional merge fields that we need to have in there on these written prescription templates to ensure they're all compliant. So I've got the very generic ones here that you'll see that you'll use across lots of different types of templates. And then down here, you'll see I've got specific ones that I've added in that are in relation to written prescription. So you wouldn't see these and these wouldn't be valid in, say, your consent area or your reminders area, just as an example. In terms of now actually making use of those merge fields that we've just downloaded, what you want to do, and it's a very specific workflow, but it's just one of those that once you've done it a couple of times, you just remember it, hopefully, is you want to head up to the very top and go into the mailing section. And then you want to select this icon that says select recipients. You'll have a little drop down and you want to press use an existing list. And what that is going to do is it's going to open your folders and you want to go and find where you've created that merge field folder. So I've got mine here. And then I want to select the appropriate merge field collection. So for this one, it's prescription template. Just click it and press open. It looks like nothing has happened, but what has happened is it's now given me a list of merge fields that I can add into this template. So to start adding my merge fields, I want to get my cursor in my appropriate area. So I've left frequency and duration blank so we can fill these in. So I'm going to use for frequency, I'm going to use my drop down up here where we've got insert merge field. And I now need to go down and find frequency. So this is in alphabetical order to try and give it some kind of sense. So I'm going to select frequency and it fills it in there for me. I'm going to do the exact same for duration. So use my drop down, go and find duration, and then that has pre-filled that for me. So go through your document, as I said, whether you're starting from scratch or you've got something that's kind of pre-created, and add those prompts in there. And with your prescription one, and we'll see how that pulls through into Merlin in a second. But because you are putting all of this information into Merlin, it's this now, it's going to pull all of that relevant information straight out of Merlin and onto this Word document for you. So you shouldn't have to do anything else. So you can put in as many as you need to. You'll see on this one that I've put all of my site details in my header up there. And then in terms of the prompts, so prompts may be something that you already use, or it may be something that's quite new to you. But the idea of prompts is that in Merlin, it allows you, or it prompts you to add in some free typed information into your document before it actually generates. So you can pop it in. You've already created your template, so you know it's going to appear in this area. And it means you don't have to then go and make any edits after you've generated it, because it will pre-populate it for you. So I've just got a very basic example down here of where you may add some prompts in. I've got two here where you could manually type in your prescribing vet at the time of creating the written prescription, and then also adding in your stream of qualifications that you may have beyond that. So I'm just going to remove my qualification one and show you how you would add that. So again, this is just one of those kind of workflows that is quite specific, but you just get used to it when you've done it a couple of times. So I'm going to get my cursor in the right area. And this time I want to go up into insert at the top left. And then I want to go to my quick parts icon over here. Use the drop down, and what I want to select is field. Over on the right hand side, I want to choose the appropriate field name, which is merge field. So that is here. As soon as I select that, I then get the field properties area. And again, it's very specific in terms of what you type in, but you do just get used to it. It becomes second nature. So what you want to type in to ensure it's going to work with Merlin is all in lowercase. You want to type the word prompt, follow it with a full with a colon, a space, and then you want to add in the wording that is going to prompt you to type in what the information that you need. So if I type in qualification and press OK, what that's done is it's added that prompt in there for me. I would now save this document, upload it into Merlin the same way that you always do. And that's then what we'll do now is I'll show you how that's going to generate and how that prompted information is going to display initially in Merlin, and then how it then pre-fills it into the document. So we're going to imagine that you've done the workflow to get yourself to the point of where you're going to turn a treatment that you're adding into an actual written prescription. So if I just pull up Merlin, let me go back to this and we can view how that workflow would work. So we've gone through the written prescription or the prescription workflow, and it's now time to turn all of that information and that data into a written prescription so we can provide it to our client. You select your appropriate document, press generate, and this is when the prompt will display. So this is the prompt data. So I can now type in my prescribing vet, I can free type in any of my qualifications and press OK. That then is instantly generating that document for me. I can see that the prompts have now displayed themselves down here exactly how I wanted them to be written. And then I can also see that all that merge field information has then brought itself across as well. All of that generic stuff, my site details and whatnot. And it's also worth noting at this point, you do still have the ability to then make any edits that you want to. So if you do want to change anything, or maybe you want to free type some additional information, you can do. But if you don't need to add anything in because you've done those prompts, that is all in there for you and you're ready to go, whether you're going to print this off or you want to then email it over to the online pharmacy, whatever the next step is going to be. So that really is as simple as it gets when it comes to adding in merge fields, adding in prompts, and then how they then really smoothly translate all of your data and they display in your templates within Merlin. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the key merge fields to actually make use of. So as I mentioned, there are absolutely heaps of merge fields, a lot of standard ones that you're probably already using across all of your different documentation types. But there's some key ones that I just want to highlight that, again, like I said, you may or may not be using. And the first ones that I'm focusing on are all around your patient reminders. So when I say patient reminders in Merlin, you've got three types of reminders. You've got patient reminders, compliance reminders, and your appointment reminders. And your patient reminders are the ones that we advise to use for your annual vaccinations, your kennel cough. And then you're using your compliance ones more for your flea and your worms that are more frequent. You want them to repeat and you want to be reminding people to comply and keep applying that advocate. So focusing on the patient reminders one at the moment, which, as I said, use very commonly for your vaccination and your kennel cough and your rabies reminders. There's three here that I wanted to highlight. And the first one is making use of one called your CV date. And that stands for your current vaccination date. And that is one that we recommend to use for your upcoming reminders. So what I've done here is I've created a bit of just a very basic piece of text that would copy that CV date into an upcoming reminder vaccination. So that would translate to Millie is due their annual booster on the 12th of the 4th, 25. Please follow this link or call X, Y, and Z to make that booking. The way that I think this one is really useful, because you're giving them that specific date, if you are to use an online appointment booking system, so MWI Pet, for example, where the client, they can book their own appointment, giving them the specific date that they are due, it means that they can go on to MWI Pet, as I said, for example, they can look at availability and they can say, right, okay, I'm due on the 12th, so I'm going to get booked in exactly for the 12th. So even though they're potentially not calling the practice, they're still able to ensure that, you know, they're not booking in too early, depending on how far in advance you send your appointment reminders. They're not booking in too late, so there's no risk of any lapsing in cover of those vaccinations. So it allows them to just really choose, yes, I want to book in for the exact date that they're due. And then hopefully as well, you know, freeing up the phone lines because the client, can then go and make that decision and book it themselves. The second one that I've mentioned is the LV date. And this one I think is specifically useful if you send out reminders for overdue reminders. So again, within Merlin, you can send out and you can set up an automatic schedule for all of your reminders. And for your patient reminders specifically, you can set schedules up for upcoming, but you can also do them for overdue reminders. And those overdue reminders are just as important as those ones, you know, that are up and coming, especially for the benefit and the health of the patient. And that LV date stands for last vaccination date. So the way that I have created a bit of wording for that could be that you could really be specific about when a patient last received their vaccination. So in this example, I've said, Millie has not received a vaccination since the 12th of the 3rd, 2024. And then beyond that, you can then add in some educational piece around, how important it is that Millie remains up to date to reduce risks, to ensure cover, and just talk about patient health in general. And then also, add on your links and your kind of call to actions for how they can then go and book those appointments. And I think that's just a really good one. So, it kind of hits the clients a little bit and thinks, oh God, I didn't realize we've not vaccinated her for the last year, last 2 years or however long it's been. So that's a really specific one that I think is really useful for those overdue reminders. And then the last one in relation to patient reminders, and it's one that not many clients tend to use. Not many of our clients, practices tend to use, is the all animals merge field that you can use, which will allow you to combine your reminders and your messages into one communication rather than, perhaps 3 different messages if the client of yours has 3 different pets. So with this one, you do have to, you've got to make sure your wording is appropriate, kind of grammatically correct, because if you set up a reminder and you use all animals, this means it will go out to clients whether they've got 1 patient or they've got 3 patients, 2 patients, however many that they may have. So you've got to be a little bit careful there in terms of the way you word it. So no matter who it goes out to, it still makes sense whether they've got 3 patients or just 1. So a bit of kind of guidance around the way that you could think about wording it would be that our records indicate that your following pets are due their annual booster on the 12th of the 4th, 2025. Please follow the link or call to book an appointment for Millie, Jeff and Milo. So if it was just Millie and Jeff that were due, that would still make sense because it would be just say Millie and Jeff. If it was just Millie that was due, again, it would still make sense. So grammatically, it still makes sense there, but it allows you to encapsulate, 3 pieces of communication within one message. And again, you can pop on there to follow the link. So again, just reverting back to MWI Pet, you can book appointments for multiple pets at the same time. So it just allows you to communicate that in one go, and it allows your clients to then book that all in one go. So that's specifically around patient reminders and what you can do with those there. Some other ones that I wanted to mention, and I've got a bit of a theme of reminders here, is that you've got appointment reminders. So in the top left, this is one that is commonly used, but one that tends to trip people up. And I just want to be super clear and clarify that the merge field that is named appointment date, it does pull through the appointment date, but it also pulls through the time of the appointment. So that does trip people up quite a bit. But the purpose of that is just to ensure that it didn't become 2 separate merge fields or one really long worded merge field. So it's one of those things that once you know it, you just remember that appointment date also includes the appointment time. And it's also worth noting, so I know this session is specifically around document templates, and what I've shown so far is things that you would email out to your clients, but all of these merge fields also exist for your SMS template. So if you are sending texts out to your clients, all of these same merge fields exist, so you can use them across both. So that was the appointment reminders one that's just worth noting. On the right hand side, so moving on to compliance reminders. So as I mentioned, this is more around your kind of fleeing your worms and, reminding your clients to keep applying that advocate or keep giving that wormer and encouraging them to contact the practice if they need to order more. So with that compliance reminders one, the one that I've focused on is product description. Because what that does, it allows you as a practice to have a bit of choice of what is written for each different treatment code that has a compliance reminder turned on for it. So what I've done is I've taken a bit of a screenshot out of Merlin where this particular product description field sits and where the information is pulled out. So that is within code entry. It's in your reminder options. And as you can see here, I've got a compliance reminder turned on for this advocate. I've set it up so it's going to repeat itself 3 times every 4 weeks, because this particular one that I've sold out is a 3-pack of pipettes. So it means that it's going to repeat 3 times with the appropriate wording, asking them to apply that particular treatment. And you can choose whatever you want to be in that product description. So my first example is that you may just keep it generic and say, Millie is now due their flea treatment. Please use the link or contact the practice if you need to. Please use this link or contact the practice, if you need to order more. Or you can get specific. So for your clients, flea treatment to them, they know what flea treatment is, but if they've got a box of flea treatment and a box of Wormer at home, they may look at them both and think, I've received the text, but I'm not 100% sure which one actually is the flea treatment. So what you can do is you can actually be really specific, and you can pop in there the name of the flea treatment, but you can keep it, again, very simple. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be the full name of the, say, Advocate 3-pack 10 to 25 kilogram or anything like that. It can simply just be worded as Advocate, and that'll really help your clients know exactly what it is that they're due, because flea treatment might be a little bit vague. So that would word it as that Millie is now due their Advocate. Please use this link or call the practice if you need to order more. And again, I think keeping it generic but specific about the product description name for each of your different treatment codes. If they do use MWI PET, again, for example, I keep reverting back to that. But with MWI PET, because your clients, they can request a prescription directly through MWI PET, it means that they can actually be very specific about what it is that they need. If you've just written it as flea treatment, they may just then think, oh, I'm not too sure what flea treatment it is that I need. But if you've written that as Advocate, they know that when they come to order that repeat prescription, and when that comes through to Merlin, the request that they've put in is specifically for Advocate, because they know that that's what they routinely order. And the thing with this product description, because you turn your compliance reminder on for each individual treatment code that you want a compliance reminder on for, you can be very specific for each different treatment code. It doesn't have to be the same. You can set unique things up for each different code. So it's completely up to you as a practice if you use that product description merge field. And then the last one to mention is just the debtors merge field. So again, as you will be probably very aware, is that you can use Merlin to manage your debtors and communicate to all of your debtors clients by sending them invoices and then chase up letters. This one's a little bit more generic, but it gives you, with your debtors merge field, you've got various options that will enable you as users to really get into the kind of nitty-gritties and the specific amounts that may be owed by period balances, because you may have clients that have a current balance, but then they also have something that they owe from last month or maybe longer. And then you can also do an encapsulated total balance of everything that they owe. So it's really useful to be able to break that down. And what you could also do is, using those different period balances, you could also, change your wording a little bit or be a little bit specific and make them aware that because you've got a balance in period 3, which tends as a kind of a general rule, I guess, is that period 3 is usually 90 plus days, because that's now a long-standing debt that they've still not paid, you could incorporate a little bit of wording around that to say that there may now be a surcharge or further action may be taken due to this set amount that is still a balance in period 3. So it just allows you to be really specific when you're creating those chase-up letters that accompany those invoices and statements when you send things out in bulk to your clients that have got a debt on their account. So that is the key key merge fields that I wanted to highlight, that's outside of the, like I said, the generic ones that you'll probably use across all different types of documentation. And that takes us on to my next topic, which is talking about template utilization. So when we think back to the beginning, and I showed all of the different document categories, I guess I can call them, your different document categories that you've got across Merlin. There's so many in there and I think there's quite a lot that are underutilized, or a lot of practices tend to just kind of throw everything into the consent area for all of your consent forms. And that ends up giving you quite a big library and a big list of all sorts of different forms that you've got to rifle through every day when you're just looking for a particular type of form, and it may not actually be a consent specific form. So the first one that I want to talk about in terms of template utilization is within code entry. So when you're in code entry, in treatment options, there's an area in there where you can see under the documents field where you can enable documents. And if you have created a document and you've uploaded it into the code entry area of the Merlin document management, you would be able to turn this on, press assign document, and select a specific document here. So the example that I've given and that we advise is that for a lot of your kind of standard procedures. So dog castrates, your bitch spays, your dentals, your, I don't know, your stitch ups or your sedation aftercare, whatever it may be. It's very common, I believe, that, you'll be sending home a little bit of aftercare advice that is just very generic, recovering from GA, information about feeding, exercise, all that kind of information. What you can do is you can actually assign that document to this particular, for example, your dog castrate procedure. What that then means is that anytime you charge up your dog castrate, you are then going to be prompted. So it won't generate it straight away in case you don't want it, but you will get a prompt and say, do you want to generate the assigned form? And what that means is that as soon as you priced up your dog castrate, you can then get that prompt and you can say, yep, let's generate my dog castrate post-op care, and I'm going to put that with their meds ready for them to go home. So it means my nurse doesn't have to remember to do it, or my receptionist doesn't have to remember to do it, or it means that I can ensure it's going at the time and the client doesn't walk out the door and then potentially either have to come back or then ring up your reception team and say, oh, I didn't get this form, or start asking all of the questions that you've actually detailed on that particular handout. So I think that's a really handy one to especially use against all of your, your standard procedures, to ensure that it's just a nice, smooth workflow. It gets printed out, put with the going home meds, and it's all sorted, and you don't have to think about it on discharge or anything like that. One thing just to mention, just to be aware of, to take home with the code entry documents, is that you can only assign one document per treatment code. So that's just something to keep in mind. The next one that I wanted to mention is your client documents. So these are things, again, that we tend to see kind of thrown into the consent area and just filling it up with documents, like I said, that aren't specifically around consent. And they don't require physical sign-off or anything like that. So anything within this area, they can still be personalized. So you can use your merge fields. It will bring across all of your client details and things like that. But it's things that you may want to use that, as a really key thing from here, is that you can actually email them direct to your customer from this area. So a lot of your generic, maybe some examples I've put here is a welcome document. So when someone registers with the practice, you can go into your client area after you've just registered them, generate this document, and yes, you can print it off, but you can also email it to them direct from Merlin, because a lot of people these days don't want the paper copies, do they? But you're still having that communication with them and providing them with all sorts of information, such as opening hours, out of hours contacts and whatnot. Another example may be if you make use of healthcare plans, pet health plans, and you have a little bit of an information leaflet that you want to, again, provide to your customers about what's included, what are the perks of being on a healthcare plan, how long it lasts, all that good, really useful information that keeps people on a plan and that reminds them of the benefits of being on a plan. Again, getting that in there, because you can, again, generate it, email it straight to them, or you can hand it over to them at the point that they have just signed up to the healthcare plan. And then another one here, and a one that's commonly used, is the privacy policy. So within Merlin, you're probably aware that there's that data consent workflow that allows you as a practice to get data consent and communication preferences from your clients. As part of that, the privacy policy can then automatically generate as you go through that workflow. So you can then either print it, you can get them to have a look at it at the time. But to enable that document to actually generate as part of that workflow, you need to have your privacy policy uploaded into your client document area of your document management. What that then does, and what all of these do, is that there's a client document area that's sat on your reception screen where everything that's been generated will sit. And that's how you can then go into there. You can either reprint it, that's how you would go in and you would email it. So again, as part of that data consent workflow, what a lot, maybe tend to do is, after they've had a quick run through of the laminated copy of your privacy policy that you may have in practice, because you've generated that, you can also say, oh, I've just dropped you an email with it as well, so you've got it for reference for future. So you can go into those client documents and you can email that privacy policy straight across to your clients. So moving on from client documents, I've got Report Wizard. So there is absolutely heaps that you can do from Report Wizard. So the Report Wizard is part of the reporting module within Merlin. And once you're in that module, you've got your standard reports where you can pull out a lot of your data and your analytics. But then you've got your report wizard where you can kind of do two things. You can pull out very specific data, so you can pull out reports on specific medications. But what I'm focusing on is how you can do bulk communications from it and do a bit of targeted marketing as well, because you can be so specific on the criteria that you pull out of your report wizard. So just some examples of ways that we suggest that you can kind of do those bulk communications and targeted marketing to your customers is doing kind of Christmas and seasonal greetings to your clients. You could also send out health advice and warnings. So maybe there's been a bit of a breakout of parvo in the area, or a bit of a reported case of Alabama rot in the area. We kind of seem to see that every now and again. You can really be really quick at communicating with your clients by creating a template, putting that into the appropriate report wizard area within the Merlin documentation management, and then you can get all of these fired out to your relevant clients. Promotional offers, so maybe you're doing something for Rabbit Health Awareness Month, or you've got a bit of a senior week going on and offering discounted, I don't know, blood profiles, new treatments available, so maybe you've just started offering K-laser, or you started doing hydrotherapy, talking about practice open days if you've opened a new branch, or you just want a practice open day to get your clients into the practice, get them seeing what goes on behind the scenes within reason. Any changes to opening hours or practice updates, maybe you've got a day closed for CPD afternoon, or you've got a bit of building maintenance going on, or whatever it may be. And also a good one is around satisfaction surveys. So you could create a document and you could in that include a link to a satisfaction survey that you have created. And, you can use that to encourage your clients to provide a little bit of feedback, some Google reviews, whatever it may be. Quite a list, but I'm sure it's not an exhaustive list of all the things that you can do. And with that, because of using Report Wizard, because you can really drill down into breeds, ages, species, registered dates, everything like that, you can be really confident that if we are doing a bit of a promotional week for Rabbit Health Awareness Month or whatever it may be, you can ensure that you only send these communications out to your clients that have got registered rabbits. Any health advice warnings, you can make sure they only go out to dogs if it's about parvovirus surges in the area or whatever it may be. And I think, doing all of these and creating your different templates, some of them, again, you can probably recycle. So your seasonal greetings, you can, recycle them a bit every year. And just having those communications and keeping that communication open, I've said, it can help improve your client retention because it keeps those communications going. It gets people in. It can increase revenue. So making people aware of those promotional offers, new treatments, things people might want to try. And then also enhancing that patient care. So getting them in, because a lot of the time you don't see your patients unless they're obviously unwell or they're due their vaccination. And there can be often things that I'm sure you're very aware, that are underlying and your clients don't realise that something is actually going on. So getting them in for those promotional offers or, inviting them down for the open days, it may enhance that patient care because it might bring into fruition things that the client was completely unaware of. So it's a really big, key thing there for that enhancing patient care and keeping that communication open with your clients. And then the last one that I just wanted to mention is the treatment docs or treatment documentation. And again, this is one that is quite underused. A lot of this stuff tends, again, to get just put into the consent area. It is a little bit of a hidden area sometimes. So your treatment documents are found by, if you're in history or if you're in the ad treatment area, you've got this document management icon with a drop down. And to produce documents from there, after you've popped them into that specific document template area, you would press create new treatment. And again, these are ones that are really quite useful. That is just generic information that you can produce from the patient record. You can pull through all those patient specific merge fields as well as your standard client merge fields. But on these ones, you're pulling through your patient specific merge fields. And you may want to pull out specific templates as examples I've given here, such as weight management plans, new kitten or new puppy care, things as generic as, your canine or your feline dental charts, a little bit of information about bandage care. And all of these, again, these are really useful because when you generate them, again, you can email them directly from the patient record. So if you're wanting to cut down on the amount of paper you give out, email them and it'll fire them straight away. But what it won't fire them over straight away, sorry. But what it will also do is it adds them onto the patient record. So they sit there on the history, but also within the document tab within the patient history. So you've also got a little bit of traceability that you have generated and that you have provided these forms to your clients and to your patients. And as I said again, so the main thing is just you're keeping that consent area specific for your consent documents rather than just filling that consent library with absolutely every single document type that you may use. So that brings us to the end of the template utilization area, and it takes us onto the last area, which is some pre-screened questions. Now, as I said, there will be more questions that we will review, more questions and top tips that we'll add in, and also some specific questions that we may reach out to you directly on to get a little bit more of an understanding about what it specifically is that you're asking, because it may not have been too clear within the submission when you were registering for this session. So the first one that I'll touch on is prescription merge fields. So one that we've got is that I need to add in new prescription details and new prescription merge fields, but why can't I find them? So as I mentioned at the beginning, a month or two ago now, the RCVS asked for some further details to be included in written prescriptions. So we created those merge fields to ensure that you guys can add them into your templates to be compliant. What we've had quite a lot of questions around this, and because a lot of our customers downloaded the merge field, maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, even longer than that, they don't contain those updated merge fields. They don't contain those new ones that we added. So what you need to do is that you need to ensure that you re-download your merge fields, and that will ensure that it pulls through those additional ones that we've recently added. So an example of the ones that were recently added, if you weren't aware, so it was things such as more client details. So it was your your client's email address, their home number, additional site information, and also the registration information of the prescribing vet. So that's something, and I'll show you that in a second, that can be added into Merlin. So when we say the registration number, that's a generic term, but for you guys, it's your RCVS number. So that can be added into Merlin, and that can then be automatically added onto your written prescription documents, which will just make life a little bit quicker. And I will just show you that area in a second. And then the second one that I'm going to touch on before we jump into Merlin is multi-site documents. So a question was, I'm a multi-site and I need these document templates to be available for all of my sites. Do I have to upload every document template for every single site? So the answer to that is no. If you're a multi-site practice, all you need to do is to ensure that when you are going in and you're uploading your templates, you log into your main site. Once you log into your main site and you upload your templates from there, that will then feed that template down into all of your associated sites as well. So it means you don't have to keep uploading them for every single site. One thing that I will mention just to be aware of with that is that on your templates where you've got your site information that I showed you on that prescription template at the top, some practices don't use the site merge fields and they will just manually type in your site details. If you are a multi-site practice, it is key to ensure that you use the merge fields for the site address and all of that site information, because that then ensures that then going forward, no matter which site you log in at and you generate that form, it pulls through the appropriate site details rather than kind of almost a hard-coded pre-written address for main site. It means that it pulls through all of those merge fields. And then just on the other side of that, what you can do, so at your other sites, so if we say site 1 is your main site, site 2 is one of your other branch sites, if you have specific templates that are only relevant to site 2, to your second branch, if you log into second branch and you upload a template whilst logged into second branch, that template will only display when you are logged in and working from second branch. So it means branch 1, main site, branch 3, branch 4, however many you've got, they won't see that template that's been uploaded into one of your branches. So it means you can still be specific if you've got specific docs for your branch, and it doesn't then need to fill up all of the document fields for all of your other branches. And then these last two, so I'll jump into Merlin to show these last two. We have got editing existing templates. So how can I actually edit existing templates that I've already got in Merlin? And then instant editing. How can I edit forms instantly when I generate them? So I'm just going to jump into Merlin. Let me just get logged in and we can go through these, and then I'll also show you what I mentioned about the registration. So let me just log into our demo sites. And the first question was, so how can I actually edit any templates that I've already got in Merlin? I need to make some changes to the actual bare template itself. So to do that, you want to head up to administration and get into that document templates area and go and find the specific template it is that you are wanting to edit. So I'm going to go for, we'll just go back into prescription seeing as we've used that today. What you want to do is find the appropriate template, and then your second icon along is to download the template. You want to download that, open that back up in Word, make any of the edits that you need to, so add in new merge fields, reword it, add in additional things, and then you need to do your standard re-upload it to Merlin. So whether you just do choose template to upload and that asks you to browse through your files, or you do the drag and drop slightly quicker option. Something to just mention with that, if you keep the file name exactly the same, so this one, for example, if I keep my edited one that I'm currently editing as Written Prescription 2025 and I re-upload that with the same, that's going to replace that document rather than adding a different one in there. But if you do want it to be a secondary document, you want it to be named something differently, if you give it a different name, it will upload it as a new template, and then you can either keep the two if you need to, or you can delete the one that you no longer use. When you delete a document, it only deletes the template, so no one can use that template going forward, but it doesn't delete any of the times that it's been used across any of your patients or your client record. All of that will still remain. It just means you're deleting the template so no one else accidentally uses an old one. And then again, I'm sure you're aware of it, but just when you do upload a new template, you need to ensure you press this first icon, which is Publish Template. Where that just means that you've uploaded it and you've published it, and that means now everybody across your practice can now use that template. If you don't publish it, for that time being, it means only the person that has uploaded that template will be able to see that. So that's how you would edit an existing template if you want to change the actual core detail in the template. The second one was, how do I actually edit documents as soon as I generate them within Merlin? So this is something that became maybe around about 2 years ago now, a setting added into Merlin that allows you to pick and choose which documents you want to be available to be instantly edited as soon as you generate them in Merlin. So a bit of background and context on that is that the kind of a previous behavior was that you would generate a form as usual, but it would display itself in a preview or a read only mode. And what you'd have to do was cross that off, then go and right click the document and press edit document and then make your edits that way. Whereas now with this setting, what it can do is it will open up in the edit mode instantly. So you can make your edits instantly and you don't have to do any right clicking or closing the document. And that sits under administration and settings, and then under the area of system over on the left hand side here. We've got this document editor box, and you can see all of the different document categories or document types, and you can choose to turn on which of those documents you want to be editable as soon as you generate it. So it just makes it much quicker, and you can just add in as much free type as you want to. If for whatever reason you generate, say, a consent form and you don't want to make any edits to it, that's fine. You can just cross it off as you would do if it was in read-only mode and you've not had to make any edits. The last thing that I was just going to cover was in relation to the prescription. So I started talking about that we added new merge fields for your written prescriptions. And one of the new ones that we added is titled registration. And as I said, that details to your registration number or your RCVS number. And the area where your vets and your nurses can go and add this into Merlin so it actually feeds through onto that document is if I just jump into the diary and I go into my surgeons, if I pull up a surgeon, so we'll go for Ian, there's this field down at the bottom here that's labelled license number. So this is the field that pulls through that data into that registration merge field. So if you pop in your RCVS number here, that's then going to pull that straight through into that written prescription document where you've used that registration merge field. So that does now bring me to the end of this mastering document management within Merlin. As I said, and just to reiterate, any questions that have come through, we will address them. We're going to send out an FAQ of any of the questions that we've covered. And as I said, any additional questions that we may have had on registration that we need a little bit more detail about and we want to reach out directly. And also this video recording will be available for you to watch and share with any of your team members where necessary. But yeah, that leads me to the end. So thank you everyone for your time and enjoy the rest of your week.